Hey, welcome to Doug, where we solve problems that no one has. I've always been curious, who is the strongest creature in Skyrim? There are 16 total categories of creatures in the game, and they obviously have, a huge variety of characteristics and strengths, but you always encounter them in isolation out in the wild. So it's really hard to know which creature would be the most powerful in like a straight up fight. So I figured the best way to actually determine who's the strongest creature would obviously be a tournament, where all 16 Skyrim creatures are randomly seeded into a group stage, and then each group fights, and the 2 survivors of each group moves on. Then the remaining 8 creatures fight in a second group stage, and then the top 4 from there move into a 1v1 semifinals, followed by a grand final match to determine the strongest creature in Skyrim. Let's kick this tournament off with Group A. We've got Mammoths versus Ice Wraiths versus Horkers versus Snow Bears. Let the battle begin. And that's it for the first battle. The Mammoths win the group with the Snow Bears in second place, so both creatures will move on to the next stage. In Group B, we have 5 Snowy Sabercats versus 5 Horses versus 5 Trolls versus 5 Slaughterfish, which are just sort of swimming around in the ground. Hold your horses, Sabercats. The fight hasn't started quite yet. Begin. One of the Sabercats quickly wipes out all of the Slaughterfish. Looks like the horses are sandwiched in between the Trolls and the Sabercats. Ooh, Sabercats win by a wide margin. Congratulations to the Trolls in second place and the Cats in first place. You move on to the next group stage. Giant Frost Spiders versus 5 Elk versus 5 Pit Wolves versus 5 Skeevers. Let the battle begin. Well, the Wolves went right for the Skeevers. The Elk just immediately ran out of the arena, so they are disqualified. And then the Frost Spiders came in and just sort of cleaned up the remaining Wolves. So with that, the Frost Spiders win the group, advancing with the Wolves to the next stage. Lastly, we have Group D. 5 Foxes versus 5 Spriggans versus 5 Charis versus 5 Mud Crabs. The Spriggan actually cast a spell on the Foxes to control them and make them their allies, which was a pretty strong tactic. Let the battle begin. The Foxes immediately went for the Charis, and the Charis strike back against them and the Mud Crabs. The Spriggans come in to finish the Charis off, but they are extremely strong. Comes down to a 1v1 battle between Charis and Spriggan, with the Charis just barely clutching it out. Actually, there's just one Fox that didn't really fight. So technically, the Foxes live longer and come in second place in the group in advance. Congratulations to the Foxes and the Charis for moving on. Now the remaining 8 creatures are reseeded into a new group stage. Already it's much more competitive, with most of the weaker creatures being weeded out. We begin with Group A. 5 Mammoths versus 5 Pit Wolves versus 5 Foxes versus 5 Snowy Sabercats. The stage is set. Let the battle begin. Ruthless efficiency, the Mammoths take it over all the other creatures. Congratulations to the Sabercats and to the Mammoths, who move on to the semifinals. Group B, 5 Trolls versus 5 Snow Bears versus 5 Charis versus 5 Giant Frost Spiders. The stage is set. Let the battle begin. The Charis immediately go for the Trolls. And so do the Bears. And so do the Frost Spiders. So it turns out that Charis, Snow Bears, and Spiders don't actually attack each other. Like, they don't seem to be enemies in the game itself and won't do any damage or fight in the wild. And this obviously will not work for this tournament. So instead, I used the console to manually add the Command Animal spell to my character and remove all cooldowns. So now I can cast Command Animal to make half of the remaining creatures my allies and fight the other half to the death. Once the fighting recommences, the Charis are ganged on by the Bears and the Spiders and are taken out in third place. Then in a very tense 1v1 fight, the frost spiders barely edge out a win over the snow bears. Both spiders and bears will move on to the semifinals. This set the stage for our semifinals: Mammoth versus Giant Frost Spider, and Saber Cat versus Snow Bear. Our first semifinals: Mammoths versus Giant Frost Spiders. Mammoths just seem unstoppable though. They sweep through the spiders, only losing a single mammoth, and secure themselves a spot in the grand finals. The second semifinal is 5 snowy saber cats versus 5 snow bears. This was another situation where the animals won't actually fight each other naturally. They don't seem to have any problem with each other, and they just really want to kill me. So to get around this, I spawned the saber cats first and then cast command animal on them, so they become my allies. Then I spawned the snow bears, and now they want to kill each other. And the bears take it solidly, only losing 2 bears in the entire fight. Very impressive performance. And this means that our grand finals is a rematch between the snow bears and the mammoths. Mammoths and the bears fought in the first group stage and mammoths won there, but there were a bunch of other animals there too, and the snow bears weren't very coordinated in their fighting. So they might fare better here without ice wraiths to distract them. So let the finals begin. Only losing a single fighter, the mammoths give a dominant performance to show that they are in fact the best creature in Skyrim. And I was actually curious like how much better mammoths were. So I was like, could 5 mammoths beat 15 bears? No, they can't. 15 bears will absolutely crush 5 mammoths. And in fact, 10 bears also crushed 5 mammoths, so it's not quite as uneven as I thought. So then I tried with 8 bears versus 5 mammoths. The first time, the mammoths crushed the bears, but the second time, the 8 bears absolutely destroyed the mammoths. And then the third attempt, the 8 bears lost again, but it was a much closer fight. The fighting potential of the bears actually seems to be a lot higher than what we saw in this tournament. It seems like they have the potential to win, like we saw that in the 8 versus 5 battles, but they just don't have the consistency. So maybe 5 bears could actually kill 5 mammoths if they were coordinated and were fighting well in that particular battle. But in the end, the bears did not perform well in this tournament, and they'll just have to accept that mammoths are the best creature in Skyrim. Okay, with that shit out of the way, let's get to the real battle. 25 mud crabs versus 25 orcers. Let's fucking go! And mud crabs take it, let's fucking go! Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this was informative.